Hey, welcome to another Q&A for the program Tales of the City for the 2023 San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival. Thank you for joining us. We have some of the filmmakers here with us for this program. Hi, filmmakers. Thank you, people, for
Hey.
being here. Hey, why don't I have you guys just introduce yourself, who you are, the film you're associated with, and what your role in that film was. Vicky, I'll start with you. You're first at my screen.
So my name is Vicky Topaz. I'm located in San Francisco. Our film is By My Side, and I am the director producer of the film.
Thanks for being here.
Right. Thank you
Great.
for inviting us. Yeah.
Yeah, Grace, you're next.
My name is Grace, and I'm the co-director of The Weight They Carry.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. And Emilio, you're next on my screen.
My name is Emilio Gallegos, and my family and I are one of the featured families in Vicky's film By My Side.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being in that film, and filmmakers, thank you for making your films. Congratulations on completing them and getting into our film festival. So, Vicky, I'll start with you. What inspired this film? What was the catalyst?
Um, I've been a photographer for nearly 20 years, moved into filmmaking, and at the end of one of my photographic projects, I started learning about an organization called Puppies Behind Bars, and I wondered what that meant. And I learned that it was about inmates training dogs to be service dogs for veterans with PTSD. I didn't know anything about PTSD or service animals, and I just felt that that would be my next project, and it was. So after photographing for a few years with veterans and their service dogs, I met the families, and that's when I knew that those were stories that were not being told and that they needed to be told, and that film would be a good vehicle for that.
Two questions, too. I think I remember in your bio, too. Wasn't your dad a veteran?
Yes, this is part of why it's so personal for me also, because my father was a World War II veteran. He was a tail gunner. He came when he got home. I was born shortly after that. And as I grew up, I didn't understand the alcoholism. I didn't understand the anger. I knew something was different with our family. And it was meeting these families that helped me really understand the missing piece of the puzzle in my own family. So in that way, it's very personal, and it's very personal with the veterans in the film because I've known them for years,
Oh,
and we're like family.
well, I'll
So,
go to Emilio next, but any chance, are you also, you got to be a dog lover or animal lover, or do you have
oh,
to?
I am a dog lover, and of course that helped everything along, learning about service animals and learning what all dogs are able to do in terms of helping not only veterans with post-traumatic stress and trauma, but helping in so many ways others as well
Yeah,
that face trauma.
I
So
learned some interesting facts about dogs from watching your film. Emilio, so how did you become involved? Were you already connected with Vicky, or how did you get involved with this film?
All the dogs in the film are from the same place where we train, called Operation Freedom Paws in San Martin, California. So Vicky had been coming to class and taking pictures of things going on throughout the classes week to week. And so she eventually reached out to me and my family and asked if we'd love to be a part of her picture project, photography project. And then that led to also, would you like to be involved in this film, some years later?
Yeah, yeah, right on. Glad you are. Very generous of you to share and open up. And Grace, what got you involved in this film? What made you do this subject, this topic?
Well, I've struggled with mental health issues, and I know how hard it is to have them when you don't talk about it. So I've really made it my passion, or yeah, to talk about this issue, to make films about this issue. So I'm also passionate about animals. I have a cat, and so I've gone to the vet a lot. And through that, I discovered that veterinarians have a higher suicide rate than the general population. And I knew that this was something that I wanted to work on because it's just something that people don't know about, but literally like more than half of the country like have animals. So it's just something that really kind of touches so many people, but people don't know about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I got.
It kind of makes sense once I learned about it from your film, but then it still was shocking and surprising because you know when we're younger and you think about, what's a profession like to be veterinarian, it just seems like, oh, I love the kind of wonderful thing, to work with animals, save animals, and then
Hmm.
you're shocked that there's so much, mental health issues in the industry.
Yeah, yeah, I actually did want to be a vet when I was little. So that was kind of my other like reason why I wanted to do it, because I really wanted to be in a clinic and like see what happens and be able to be kind of behind the scenes. So
Because you love animals,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then so how did you learn about that statistic? Like by making your film, or you found out about it before your film, and so I got to make a movie about this.
Yeah, I found out about it first. I honestly cannot remember for the life of me how I found out. I think I was like literally waiting for my cat at the vet, and I was like looking on Reddit or something about like, vet things. And I think I started to see like people were really kind of mean to vets sometimes, and they would
Hmm.
like take it out and they would like, scream at the staff, things like that. So then I was like, what's going on here? And I think that's how I ended up finding out about like what is actually going on behind the scenes with this like mental health crisis.
Yeah. And Vicky, what's one thing about dogs that you learned that helps them with vets? I mean, and Amelia, you can talk this too. It's like it makes a difference in your life. I mean, yeah, you change because of having a service dog, right?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about this, but then Emilio is going to really give you the actual experience of it. But learning what dogs were able to be trained to do in terms of helping somebody dealing with trauma was kind of mind-blowing, really, in terms of how they help them out in public, watching their back, making sure that if there's anyone coming a little too close, they nudge them, waking them up before a night terror happens because of scent, and how they're trained to deal with that scent when they hear the chemical change in the veteran before the nightmare starts. So they are able to wake them up by pawing them or licking their face, bringing them out of that experience.
I,
Um,
I love the opening, not love, but the opening of your film was amazing that you captured those moments in training for the dogs.
was one of our
The back,
first shoots, and it was just like, wow.
I know,
Yeah.
and you
But
really got to see it in action, like how
yeah,
the trauma kicks in and the animals help out.
yeah. But Emilio, let's
Yeah.
talk about how Samson helps you and all of that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Samson has been in my life since 2016, March, and he has been everything I could ever have hoped for and more. I've learned that he has become the bridge for me back to whatever normality is in my life, or trying to live a regular life again. As veterans, we come back home and we're hardened and we're secluded. I drove over an IED in Iraq in September of 2008, September 5th. And so coming home, I was really alone in a lot of things, even as a single father, still trying to raise my kids when I had them. So I became really hardened. You kind of judge yourself, you feel guilty for things you're not doing in your family. But these almost about 8 years or so with my dog now, he has allowed me to consistently love on something or someone, and to show myself like, oh, I can still love people and things, instead of being that hardened person that I was, right, being pulled away from the world. But also he showed me that I'm capable of receiving love in return. So it's very reciprocal. It's very cyclical, because sometimes, again, like as veterans, we get hardened into these things, these lifestyles. No one's going to want to spend time with me in those situations because I'm wishy-washy. I'm here and there. I don't show up when I should or could. And so the dog gives you unconditionality, regardless of what I did yesterday, regardless of if I didn't want to wake up yesterday, regardless if I didn't want to leave my apartment yesterday, or if I slept for 15 hours. He's not
Yeah.
going to judge me, right? He's going to come and love me regardless. And so that has been priceless and irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And he's been just a bridge to me having greater conversations, being
Yeah.
the best person I can be, because this is another platform that I wouldn't be on without my dog, right?
I just had that thought. It's amazing. Dogs are amazing, and you're probably here with us because of Samson, right? Did you notice the change in yourself? Like, did you have aha moments with Samson where it's like a breakthrough, and it was
There was in the beginning, it was very hard for me I was going to school as a San Jose State, so I had him, and he would want to get up and leave class a lot in the beginning. And so I thought maybe this is kind of too much for me, I think, in my life right now because of what I'm doing. So I contemplated, like, is this the right decision for me? Even though I wanted to make these changes positively in my life after trying a lot of alcohol, a lot of gym, a lot of medications, a lot of different therapies that weren't successful. And so a very unsuccessful coping mechanism. So the dog was something that I almost last resort-ish. But in the beginning, like I said, I almost felt like it was too much for me. And so, but he pushed me in his way to I chose to stay with it. But also, you know, I could easily have fell back into that hole, but sticking with it and loving this person and wanting not wanting to lose his love in a way pushed me to like further who I am and break through that barrier of wanting to just jump back into seclusion.
And did I miss, how did you find the program? What's the name of the program? And how did you find that program with
Operation Freedom Paws. I was looking, I might have seen Mary. I worked at Trader Joe's at the time. I was looking for a dog, and I seen a few service dogs come in there, and I think I might have saw her there. And so I started looking into it. You know, like I said, almost as a last resort. But he showed me through that whole process that sticking with it, you know, means something. And in the film, you know, my kids and I never talk about this stuff for a lot of years. Still really don't, even though it's more prevalent. This has been a very cathartic process for us. But the first time I heard my daughter's words were on the screen through multiple, you know, build-ups to the final piece. And she says, I was really scared to be around my father, around my dad these times, you know? And so that really cut me really deep, and it still does, to know that I put that on her, you know? And so I can see now what Vicky's associating with the kids in the film, because that's the life she lived, right? And so
right.
we can't get that time back, but also another part of the film, my kids say, I've seen Samson change my dad. And so the changes are visible, right?
Yeah.
That's very rewarding.
Yeah, and I think it was your story too with your daughter. She didn't recognize you even when you came back, right? It was that her that said that quote, like, you didn't know who he was. And then with the dog, she started to see her dad again. Yeah. So Vicky, what were some of the challenges making your movie? Tell us about the production process a little bit.
Yeah. Interestingly, doing the filming and interviewing with the veterans and the children, I thought that might be a challenge, and it wasn't, you know, because there was some trust there because of my experiences with them over time. But being a first-time filmmaker, at least a filmmaker at this level, everything was new to me. And I collaborated with some of the most amazing people who had the same amount of passion and heart as I did for this project. And that collaboration is really what made this film happen and be as powerful as I believe it is.
Yeah, because the access that you have to the subjects, and you, Emilio, you and your co-subjects, your generosity and openness are real and authentic. It's wonderful. That's what makes the movie.
Yeah.
Grace, also talk about your production process. Another thing that's a challenge for these films is, you know, you have equipment. You're coming in with animals, let's say, with equipment, and it's like, what the heck is that? And maybe, you know, let alone humans. Dogs also be like, you know, are scared by these gear, you know, the gear.
Yeah, I think for me, a big challenge was just finding a vet clinic to film in and finding someone who was willing to be vulnerable and talk about this. I contacted so many different organizations, so many different veterinarians, and I got rejected many times because there was one clinic that had just recently got bought, and they were like, we don't want to be associated with like mental health stuff. So it's like, it's still a huge stigma. So that was a challenge to like find a clinic both to accept the mental health part of it, and
so
also
you basically just got lucky, if you will, by happenstance, by asking enough veterinarians and vet clinics to get to this wonderful doctor and clinic that opened her world to you.
yeah, that's pretty much how I've done with all my films, is as you just have to talk to enough people and then someone will say yes. Yeah, so, and Kathy was amazing. I mean, she's been at her clinic for over 30 years. And I mean, when I got in contact with her, she was so open, so willing to work on this. And she basically was just like, I told my hospital manager, like, there's a crew that's going to be filming me, and that's that. Like, she's just so respected that it was just not an issue to be in this clinic. And obviously, like, we had to, talk to people there, like the veterinary staff, and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, let us know if we're in your way. And we did anger a few people along the way, but like, we learned. And it was actually not that it was just me and my co-director Troy, and so we were a small team, and I think that was a little easier to kind of like be in that space. But it is a very small space, so it was like sometimes you just couldn't get the shot because you had to move out of the way.
Right. And
Yeah.
you don't want to interfere with their day-to-day, activities and business.
Yeah, of course.
And you are leading me to lots of questions. These are very inspiring films. The first thing you said about the one veterinary clinic wouldn't let you in because they didn't want to deal with the issue. And Kathy, your vet main subject, talks about it's a big secret, and hopefully it's not a secret anymore because she started some support group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She started the Veterinary Mental Health Initiative, which is they basically create support groups for several weeks at a time, like I think a 6-week period. And it's like for different types, like if you're a veterinarian, or if you're staff, or if you're a front of the house, like I don't know what you call it, but when you're at the front.
Yeah.
And so they offer these support groups for people to like come and talk about what's going on with them. And they've grown a lot. They have supported, I think, like over 500 people so far. And it's a wonderful organization. And they've also been really supportive with the film, which has been really
So why do you think it's like the one clinic wouldn't let you in? Not because of the filmmaking thing, but because it's mental health. Or why do you think it's a secret, as Kathy said? Why do you think like you and I didn't know that veterinarians struggle with this more than any other profession? Why is it a secret?
Well, I mean, mental health is a secret. I mean, I've struggled with mental health. I didn't really know that I had depression and anxiety until like, many years later. And it's just something that really is, I mean, I think it's better now because of the pandemic. Like, mental health has really kind of become more just like widespread. But at the same time, it's still hard, because actually Kathy says it in the film, like she's from like the suck it up generation. And so it's like, it's not like common for them to talk about their like weaknesses, which mental health would be considered as a weakness, and that it's like your fault that you're feeling that way, and that you should just, suck it up and deal with it and like get on with it, because like her generation doesn't talk about these kinds of issues.
Or it's I don't know if it's a human thing or it's an American thing. Emilio and Vicky talk about this as well. It's like, why is PTSD kind of like pushed back? Why do you got to come back and be, join right back in as normal, even though you've been through these, extreme experiences?
Amelia?
Sure. Well, as a veteran, it's another thing too, as well. Veteran, a male in society, you don't talk about the things. Even in the Marine Corps, even thinking about asking for help for any task, you're already failing. Not only you, but like your successive unit or whoever you're with. So you have to, again, suck it up and deal with it, find the best way so you don't ask for help. So when you come home, like my first year of college, I was struggling. I didn't have the connections I had. First 2 years, I didn't know the vet center. I would go to school and leave just because I didn't want to be too involved. I would just class and leave. But I ended up with 4 Fs and a B that semester. The B was in the poetry class because I'm a poet and I'm a writer. That was keeping me afloat and giving me some hope and some life. But the other 4 classes, I just wasn't successful, but I didn't even know where to find success. I didn't know I can go to these places on campus and ask for longer hours to test or more time to turn in, coming from that place, coming from Iraq as a veteran, coming to a college campus and showing up at the first day to your professor and like, I got this from this organization on campus. This is what I need to be successful. Extra hours, extra time to do my testing, extra workspaces. But I don't want to come to a class of people I don't know and already show weakness.
Right.
You can't do that. And so this film has been very cathartic, and at least conversations that are happening now. I regularly talk about trauma in places that trauma isn't talked about. Myself and other 40-year-old men and women of all ages at the gym, because they know my dog. They've seen him for years. And so, and that leads to oh, we're in a film. You want to know about it? And so a couple of people are coming to see the film showing that I've known from the gym. And so this community is being built where we can talk about these real things instead of just good morning, have a good workout, or hi, have a good weekend. It's like, oh, how was that funeral you telling me about? How are you really doing? You know, I just had a grandson 3 months ago. And so I'm consistently being asked about how's he doing? When's he going to come visit again? And so that's another extended community. So these places aren't so foreign, but it takes the willingness to really, really show up for yourself, show up for your community, and want to just break these barriers. And we can all share this common ground of humanness, because at the end of the day, we're all veterans of life.
Yeah, true that.
And so that's the on the basic human characteristic. Bottom level is we experience pain and emotions. Let's talk about that.
Right on. Well said. Vicky, you want to talk about this as well?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just think in general, there's a stigma when people hear the words, the letters PTSD, it's a mental health illness, or they don't quite, it's not a good understanding of it, really. And many times you'll read an article, about someone in the media, you'll read somebody, there's been a killing or something's happened and it gets associated with PTSD, which, the statistics don't really show that, But one of the things about the dogs, I'm going to talk about the dogs for a minute, is that they wear a vest that identifies them as a service animal. And many of the vests also note that it's a PTSD, service animal. And so if somebody's a little bit nervous about PTSD or they don't quite understand it, and then they see a dog with a veteran, and the immediate instinct is to, I want to pet that dog, and so they'll ask, a conversation begins, and all of a sudden things are very normal. It's like the person who might have been nervous about PTSD isn't anymore. They're meeting a person who has suffered from it or is healing from it. And the dog is the connector. And so that's just one of the beauties of the service animals and how it works when the veterans are out in public and others. I mean, we know that it's not only veterans who are now suffering, who do suffer from PTSD or trauma or whatever it is, who have service dogs as well. And it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, it sure is. Dogs are amazing creatures, wonderful creatures. We got time for one or two more. Vicky, since I'm still on you, what's something you want to share with the audiences, or maybe, tell us, what advice you would give to people, something you learned from this film, something like that.
Well, something I learned from the years of photography and from the film is to listen. Just listen.
Don't you think we're doing that less and less nowadays?
What?
Don't you think we're doing that less and less, listening nowadays?
Well, yes.
I mean, I just cut you off.
Everyone's tied into their devices and all of that. So, you don't think as much about listening, but just in general, just listen. It's not complicated. It's simple, but we're moving so fast. We're talking so fast, and it's just easy to lose sight of that. And I felt that in all of the photography, the interviews I did through the photography and in the film, it's like it even hit me more about how important it is to listen to a story. It's not as though, and Emilio, correct me, but it's not as though veterans don't want to talk about their experiences or what their story is, but finding people that truly want to hear those stories and listen to those stories may not be so easy, and so I think one of all of our hopes for the film is that it will kind of ring that bell and cause people to stop for a moment. And here are some stories to listen to. And here is some hope that comes out of telling those stories and being attached with a service animal.
Yeah, I think your film is doing it. It did it for me. I mean, it stopped me, even though I was, watching it. It's like it made me now more aware. All of your films did. Amelia, do you want to add on to this question? Anything you want to share as far as advice for fellow veterans, or something you learned while making this film?
Sure. I think what I'll say can probably tie into all those things. Samson has taught me that, I need to consistently show up for myself. And so showing up for myself was realizing I needed more help. So I found him. We found each other. But also, if I want to be loved in return in my life in various places, I need to give people the best opportunity to love me. And if I'm hiding who I really am consistently, I'm not giving them the best opportunity to love me the way I need to be loved. So if I have a bad day and I'm like, Samson, come sit with me. I want to talk to you. I want to be here with you. I can do the same thing with a friend. Like, I'm having a bad day. Come sit with me. Right. And so I need to really be truthful in who I am at all times, hopefully, so he has allowed these conversations to happen. If I want to be loved, like I really feel like I should be loved or need to be loved, I can't fake who I am in any aspect of my life.
Right.
Because I'm not going to get the support I need. I have friends that know me very, very well, that if I disappear for a few days, they know me and I'm good. They'll text me, send me some messages. If I don't show up consistently, they'll send me hey, how are you,
Right.
But they know that's me. If they didn't know the capacity of full me, they would maybe think differently. But he has allowed me to be loved probably the best way I can, because I'm being the best person I can. But also, again, being the best person I can possibly be in my community like this is because he's allowing me to be in this platform. And so it's healing me. Somebody brought it up recently. I was on a recent veteran retreat, and not only isn't only healing me, it's healing my children, it's healing my community. It's allowing me and us to be the best people we can be in and around our friends and family and community. So we're being the highest level of a decent or lovable human being we can. And in turn, he's not just saving me and us, he's saving.
Right. Yeah. He's benefiting the community.
The ripple effect is going and it's not stopping, right? People are excited to see him. Someone will see him at the gym, like, I'm having a bad day. I just want to talk to Samson for a second. Sure, come talk to us, And so that love is continuous.
You inspired me for one more question, but let me get Grace on this one too. Anything you learned from this project in particular about yourself, about animals, about anything?
I think I just want to say that my film is very short. So there's some things that we weren't able to include. So there's still kind of like other issues that veterinarians face. So for instance, they have a lot of debt from medical school. It's like as expensive as becoming a doctor, but then the pay is a lot less. And also it doesn't really dive into the issue of like dealing with finances. And that's kind of a big part of why it's hard to be veterinarian, because, there's not really like it's not mandatory to have pet insurance. And even with pet insurance, things are still really expensive. So they have to kind of sometimes choose like between, like a procedure that could help their animal and not being able to afford it. So that's kind of another difficulty that they deal with, and that, we didn't have the time to include in the film.
I bet. Well, let me end on a more lighter question. Amelia, I'll start with you. Any anecdotes related to Samson? Any fun dog moments? Any traits or personality features of Samson that you want to share with us?
Yeah, he knows when I'm going places where I'm not going to take a concert or something. I just came back from being out of the country, so he stayed at Operation Freedom Paws and was boarded for a week or 10 days, and so. He gives me these eyes, these looks, and when I'm driving there, he can smell the air. We get there, and he'll like, "Bro, are you leaving me again?"
He's making you feel guilty.
Exactly. So it's like dropping your kids off at school for the first day of kindergarten every single time, and it's consistent. But he ends up loving being there. The staff loves being him, and I wouldn't take him anywhere else, because he knows when he hears Mary's voice, Mary Cartani, who runs Operation Freedom Paws, who started the program there. He can not see her for years and months, and he'll hear her across the room, and he's like, "Oh, that woman saved my life," So he recognizes that. So I wouldn't take him anywhere else. But those moments, it reminds me of dropping off, and it's not often, but sometimes I'm gonna go to a concert.
My pets have done the same thing to me. They give me guilt when I'm leaving the house. Grace, do you have a fun animal moment making a movie, or in general?
I don't have a specific moment, but despite like how heavy the topic was, the process of making the film was actually super fun. Like it was really fun being in the clinic, being in this environment. Like, yes, it's hard, but it's also, they're saving these animals' lives. They're like, sometimes there's a really cute puppy and a really cute kitten,
And they're so trusting of us too.
What?
They're so trusting. They're so.
Not all of them.
No.
But yeah, but everyone is just so like welcoming and wonderful, and also kind of like my like selfish desire to just be in and like kind of experience the life of a veterinarian for a little bit. That was really fun.
Cool. Vicki, last but not least, an animal moment you want to share with us?
Wait, something unexpected happened when we went for our first filming of one of the veterans. So it was me and a crew of 4, okay, that we were showing up in their homes with, the equipment, big, all that. And when we got there, we drove in town and we all arrived at the same time. And she came out and she said, "Hi, it's really great to see you." She said, Artemis, her dog, Artemis is going to have to meet each person on your crew. And we need to see if she's going to approve of everybody who's going to come into our home. And so I was like, okay. I hadn't prepared anybody for that because I didn't know it myself. So everyone passed muster, but it was one of those dog moments where you're saying, "Come on, Artemis, we're good."
Who's allowed in? Well, hey, it's been wonderful to talk to all of you. Emilio,
you.
thanks for your service.
I appreciate you.
And thank you all for making and being in those movies. I think they're very important and they were very enlightening. It's a pleasure to see you guys. I hope to meet you in person.
Yeah.
In the meantime, congratulations. Audiences, thanks for watching. Check out more great independent cinema short films at sfindie.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.